All right. So we went through all of these things, right? We went through what a spa is. We went through building almost full CRUD. And we went through optimistic versus pessimistic rendering. Let's start to review that a little bit. And then we're going to get into finishing out the final features of our app. And then after this, it's just going to be a lot of practice. But this is it. So we updated our hug count and we saved it to our database. That's what we did in the morning. So let's just review that really quick. Stop me if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yes?
Can you just quickly say exactly what a spa is?
Yeah. Does someone want to try? And then I will say it after that. Just someone give their best guess.
A single page application?
Yeah. Yes.
I googled that.
Hey, me too. That's what I. So one part of software engineering, just to put it in context, you're gonna get paid to solve problems. It's like there's like two main things a software engineer does. One is like make stuff, right? Someone goes up to you and they say, hey, can you make this weird app? I have this idea for this thing called the Complementor. I want like to spice it up with really uncomfortable gifts of Nicolas Cage, and I want to be able to like hug these compliments. And you're like, I don't know what that is, but cool, I can build it. So that's like one skill. The other skill is like solving problems. That's what you get paid for. Like literally, that's what you just get paid for. So like, you'll be like, oh cool, Nicolas Cage doesn't show up. Why not? I have to go be a code detective and figure it out. So Googling is like a legit skill that like you do every single day as a software engineer. So great, yeah, single page application. That's what a SPA stands for. So a single page application is an app where it only runs on one web page, where you don't need to make a bunch of completely new like requests, like a GET request. Like in a Rails app before, you would like make a whole new request when we wanted to make a new article, right? Or like in this case, a compliment, right? We would make a whole new request. Now we just say, or like when we wanted to update, we go to complement/id/edit, we make a whole new request, then we'd submit that whole new request, then we refresh the whole page and go to complement show usually or something like that. Now we're like, we don't need to do any of that. Single page app, everything is on one web page. And the advantage is like really all the stuff that I showed you at the beginning of the mod is all like single page apps. You know, like we went to Google Maps, this is a single page app. Anything that looks kind of like software on the web is usually going to be a single page web application. Like we're not making page requests. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, single page apps. That's it. Any other questions? Cool. So update my hug count and have it saved to my database. So just to recap what we did. We took this thing and before we take our compliments and we get them from the database initially, then we generate based on that all these tags, all these compliment cards, and we say, okay, cool, hug count's 2 here. ID is 51. We tied the ID to this specific element. We also put in you're a great person to do a group project with. Put that in, great. We can see that our data is bound here. We can go to this LI. We can see, okay, cool. We've got you're a great person to do a group project with. We've got our ID bound to this tag. We've got our current count. And if I hug it, it goes up. Let me just press play. It goes up. Oh, I was showing errors to someone after class. Sorry about that. Let's Yeah, I just kept putting D's everywhere. Data set. There we go. Okay, so try it again. So this has zero hugs, right? Let's find out. This is you're always on time. And if I go to my network tab, check out the compliments. Here it is, you're always on time to things, and hug count 0. So if I click hug it, it's 1. I made a new request. This one, anytime you see options, don't worry about that right now. This is just your server kind of like preparing to do a fetch. Like, for example, a patch here. So, so just don't worry about options. So here's your patch. You say, hey, hug count is now 1. We get back an object that's 1. Our DOM says it's 1. Our data hug count says it's 1. Let's see. This is ID 52. ID 52. That says it's 1. So everything's synced up together. And how we did that, that's the behavior. How we implemented that was we made a new function called update complement hug count. We use fetch. Fetch has 2 arguments. First one is the URL that you want to fetch to. Second one is what type of fetch you want to make, what type of fetch request. This time we're going to make a patch request. And we're saying these 2 things, we found out that our server is very nice and assumes these things for us. Most of the time, servers will break if you don't have these keys. You will find out. And this one says the content type, hey, FYI server, what we're giving you is JSON. Hey, FYI server, what I would like to have back is JSON. Here is the JSON that we're sending you, right? The key comes from the contract that we have with our server, which again, it's like, this is what the server knows is hug count. And we're just saying, whatever we pass in, this will be the new hug count. Before we were optimistically rendering it, meaning when we called this method, we didn't have any of this stuff. The first time, we went here and we were just updating our DOM, and at the same time, we were updating our hug count. That's what we were doing before. And I showed you that when I turned my server off, it looked like we were updating on the DOM, but nothing was going to the backend. That's what optimistic means. We just assume everything works. We switched it to be pessimistically rendering. And that's where I make my call to my server here, and we say, when that's all done, then take the response that I get back and use that to update the DOM. So that's what we've done so far. This is a recap. Any questions on that process? This type of process is going to be what we do from now on. So it'll be like event handling, DOM manipulation, and fetch. Event handling, DOM manipulation, and fetch. I'll break it down in that way. Event handling. I click a thing. That's an event. An event fires. In this case, the event was on this button. I say, cool, this button to me means I want to increase my hug count. That's the behavior I want. I pull out the information I need from the DOM, and I do that by first, this is the event target, this is a button I clicked. I go up, I go find my site tag. So now I have my button and my site tag. In my template, I bound data from the server to my site tag. One piece of data is my hug count. One piece of data is my ID of that complement. I take the hug count that I had from my HTML, turn it into a number, and I add 1 to it. So I increase my hug count by 1. This is what I want the behavior of this button to do. So now I give the ID that I had from binding that ID to my site tag. This is the ID of my complement, and this is my new hug count. I pass that information into my helper function. When everything's done, let's go into that helper function. That helper function says, cool, given this ID and this new hug count, return a new promise, which is the response of this fetch, then parse that string into JavaScript, and then I can chain another then, right? Because I've returned this right here. And I say, when you've gotten a response back from the server, and you've taken the JSON and turned it back into JavaScript, then give me that complement, and I'll update my DOM right here, the site tag, its dataset's hug count to whatever I got back from the server, and I'll update the text so it displays properly, and I'll put it in my site tag's text content. So step one was this started from an event handler. We got the right information we needed to out of the DOM. We made a fetch request. We waited till we got a response back, and we updated the DOM. That was kind of the process that we went through. Cool? All right. Let's get into the next deliverable. By the way, I'm writing these for a reason. This is not going to go away as you start to build apps. This is like to think about features as like what a user can do. So each one of these, when I complete them, we have a new piece of functionality that a user can do. It's like incrementally building products. This is like actually how you do it a lot of times. Go ahead. Thank you. Where? Thank you. All right, so I love it. Cool. I love that. That makes me happy. All right, next one. Create new complements and have them saved to my database. So we're going to do the C in CRUD. So we did it in the DOM before, right? Like before, when we say nice hair and we submit, that all worked, that added to the DOM, but it didn't save anywhere. So now we need to tie what we did in the DOM to the database. That's what we're going to do now. So let's just remember what we did. So I say nice hair, I press submit. And terrifying Nick Cage comes out and we have undefined, hugged undefined times. That's funky. Why do we think that is? Good. Good thought. Yeah, it's something like what like a good intuition that you're starting to gain is like if we get undefined, something's probably not returned. That is true. In this case, what's happening is, let's just ask this question. Where, like if we don't know, let's just be code detectives for a second. So where does this happen? Like where in the code? The process of me clicking submit and it making a thing. Go ahead.
The event listener.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the event listener for the submit click.
Yeah. So let's go to it. Right here, where's the event listener? Right here. So that happens right here. We're saying go to the form. When you submit the form, do this stuff. That's what's going on. So being a great code detective, just like starting to like hunt down, you're like, how you can do that is in your head, say, what do I expect to happen? Right? I expected that this complement should have worked properly. It used to. So you're like, where is that being created? So like, start to go from there. So I expected it to work. It didn't work. Where does that process start? Right here. I clicked the thing, submit happened. This should have worked. So why not? Go ahead.
Did your source not load?
What do you mean by that?
Like where you're taking it from, like how you have to either put it at the bottom or defer or do DOM content.
Yeah, great question. Let's see. If I go to HTML, looks like it's at the bottom. Yep. Go ahead.
It doesn't know what complement is at this point. Right there.
Right here?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking about like dot complement and then where you have complement right there. Like there are certain attributes that are undefined at this point. You need to go ahead and specify right there in that case.
Yeah. So, a lot of stuff got a lot of hypotheses. Here's how to weed through them. So I think, honestly, I think it's helpful to think of yourself as a detective in this way. Like imagine if this was like a murder scene right now, and there was like a dead body on the ground, and there was like some water by it, and I was just like, I don't know, probably the guy probably drowned. Another detective was like, nah, he got murdered. He was like held under the water. And someone else was like, no, he fell out of a ship. Or someone else was like, no, he's skydiving. I don't know. Like, there's all these hypotheses, right? What we should do is just be like, all right, let's like go and inspect the thing. Let's see what's actually happening, and let's start to test these like hypotheses real slow, step by step. So before we come to any huge conclusions yet, debugger, right? Right before. Because what'll happen is you might spend like a lot of time just throwing stuff on a wall, be like, oh, wasn't it. I want you to just start to investigate the crime scene. I was like, what happened? So here, it's like, cool. We know that this fires. Here's where we're making our complement card HTML. Something's not right. Let's dive in. So I want to go right before, like here, that's fine. We'll just go here. We'll just pause the code right before we create this complement. Save. Refresh. Nice hair. Submit. Press escape. There we go. Okay, so it paused. Event.target is a form. We've got event.target.complement.value. Okay, so that worked. So if I copy this, actually I'll just like look at this value. Yep, so we've got our text. Okay, let's see what's in here. So this line, that is the complement. Cool, let's just keep moving forward. You can either put a breakpoint in here and just press play and pause the next one, or you can just copy and paste things. Either one's fine. So I'm just gonna keep copy and pasting. Then I work, so this one looks like it is a complement. We did find it, nothing changed there. Then I go here, I'm like, okay, what is in here? Copy that. This looks like, okay, this looks like it's all of our complements that we already have. So that looks like nothing changed there. Yep. Okay. And what about this thing? So let's try that. We got undefined, 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 and undefined. Okay, interesting. So that means that something between this and how this function works is messed up. Can you see how I'm like making these like investigative like conclusions and just like working through slowly? This will make you a great troubleshooter. So, what should I do now? Now I can see, I can reproduce it, right? I can go here and I can call this. Like I'm just gonna clear this out. I'm gonna go to console. I can call this over and over, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting the same error every time. So what do I do now? Any thoughts? Go ahead.
Go to your create complement card.
Yes,
function.
perfect. So we're like, all right, the investigation continues. Done. Put my semicolons. All right, so this is the thing now. Command D, go to it, debugger. This, we'll just ignore this. This is something I'll do later. Okay. So debugger, right? Save. Refresh. Okay, it's calling it right away. Now, why is it calling? Why did it pause right away when I've refreshed? Go ahead.
Well, just because you're declaring it, so it's running through, and I mean, even though it's not like running that function yet, it's just on the declaration part of it.
We have something that got passed in. See it?
Oh, sorry, I thought you refreshed it. I'm sorry.
No, I did refresh the page. I'll do it again. I'll refresh the page. Refresh. There's something that gets passed in right away. Why is that? Go ahead.
Is that the method you use
Yes, we're using this multiple places. This is a power of a template, right? We're in here, and we're like, right here, when we start this whole app, we're calling create complement card here, and we're looping through every single complement. So that's what's happening. So we're like, okay, let's just see what happens here. So I'm just gonna run through all of them. This is one way to do it, right? It's like, see, it's building each one. Okay, cool, they're all built. That's one way to do it. Now, let's try and recreate this again. Submit. There we go, pause it again. So let's see, let's investigate. So I can just, for example, I can just take this code. This is the only code that's in here. I can copy it. I can paste it right here. Undefined, 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 undefined. Like, why are these undefined? Well, let's look at our code a little more. Right, we're passing in complement. We have complement.message. So let's try complement.message. Complement.message. Right, that's undefined. Let's try complement.id. Complement.id. Right, these are all undefined. We're like, okay, well, complement. Oh, complement is nice hair, right? Why did this break? Does someone have like a working theory? Will.
When you're setting complement for the on click, instead of just pushing the form value into it, what you should do is create complement equals and then curly brackets, and then do complement dot message equals nice hair, and then complement dot id equals whatever.
Yeah. So the contract that so when we built this helper method originally, all we were doing was passing in the string. That's how we started. Then we refactored the first part of this. Like, let me refresh. See, when it gets called here, right? What is complement? Complement is an object, right? This is what we get back from our server. So our method is now, we changed it from just having a string as the input. Now we have a complement object that we get back from our server. So we need to do the same thing anytime we're calling this method, right? So what Will said is like, yeah, here, this is getting all the complements back from our server, and we're saying for each of them, pass that object in. And we have all this data from our server. We have a message, we have an ID, we have a hug count, all that stuff. We don't have that information anymore, right? So one way to do it, what he was saying was like, let's just maybe I'm gonna remove these comments. Cool. I'll leave that one. Okay, so const complement object equals, you're saying like, do something like message is this complement. And if this is getting confusing, you can say this is actually the text of the complement. Right? That's what this is. So if we look now, and we actually have to pass this in to here. To here. So let's save. And we have this hypothesis, so let's test it. Save. Refresh. Nice hair. Submit. Nice hair worked. Awesome. But hugged undefined times is still there. If we click on this, start to investigate some more, we see that ID is undefined and hug count is undefined. Any thoughts?
Define them.
Define them. All right, cool. Let's define them. So you're like, the first one worked. So I could be like, you know what? Hug count. You're 0. You're a new hug. That's cool. All right, let's try that. Refresh. Nice hair. Submit. Hug 0 times. Cool. All right, what about, let's just look at our HTML. ID, undefined. What now? Go ahead.
Do we need to define ID, or does the database just do that automatically when we save the new thing to that?
Yeah. What does your gut tell you?
That the database probably signs an ID.
Yeah, we have to trust the database for an ID. I like if I just like there's already IDs in the database. It's like this is how we know what's unique in the database. The database manages the IDs. I can't just be like in my app. Sorry, I'll go back. I can't just be like in my app and be like all things created are now ID 52, right? Like that doesn't work. So I need to do something differently. We have the right idea here. We know that in order to display this information, we need a complement object, right? And we're like making one now, which makes sense, but we're missing some information, right? Like we want to create this in the database. And like you said, we need an ID, and the ID only can be given to us from our backend. Good?
You try to save it, and because if it's saved, that means it's valid, so then after that, we just pull the ID back from that.
Awesome, yes. So yeah, so this is great. So right now, what we're doing is we're not saving it yet. So that we can't, when we make a new object, if we want it to have all the same functionality, right? Like if I just did this now, right? We don't know the ID, so let's just say we don't have it, right? And I make an object, or I'm sorry, I make a new complement. I submit it. Is this saved to the database right now? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? Okay, great. You're correct. We did not make a fetch request to make a new complement yet. So, if I click hug it on this new thing, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, it's confusing, right? So like if we look here, we're like, we don't have an ID. We don't have one of the two fundamental things we need when we're making something. We don't have like what it is, right? There's nothing in the database. So if I try to hug this, it's gonna give me an error. It's gonna go like, dude, I don't know what complement/undefined is. I can't make a patch request to complement/undefined. That's not a real thing in your database. You know, I tried to give you the right hug count because I hard-coded hug to 0, but there's no ID, right? It's like, can't find complement with ID undefined. So this is why we need to, for create specifically, we can only pessimistically render it, right? We need to wait. We don't have an ID. We have to wait till we get an ID back from the database. Then, after that, we can create the card and get all the information we need. So we're going to do that now. Okay? So, going back to Restular, how do I make a new complement? Go ahead.
You need to make a post to the index page.
Awesome, yes. We skip this step. This is what we have done in Rails in the past. We make a form, we fill out the form, we press submit. Then that makes a post request. We don't do that anymore. It's a single page app. We don't need that request. We're going to use fetch. We do this post. Post to complements, and you create a new complement. Cool? So let's do it. So I'm just going to make one right above here. Const create new complement. So this will be our helper method so that we can use fetch and create our complement. So we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing here, very similar. We're just going to do it with a different HTTP method. So fetch we don't need an ID. Actually, I can just put a single string. We don't need any ID, right? Why? Because our route is post to / compliments. We don't have an ID when we're creating. That's the point. We will make one, right? So there we go. And it needs a config object because it's not a GET request. So the method is post. We still need our headers. And we still need a body because we're going to send information to our server. Or a body. And so, anyone want to fill in, like what do I put here? What do I put here? Any thoughts? Go ahead.
Just put in a message and a hug count, or I mean, we have to match the attributes to.
Cool.
what's on the-
Tell me what to type.
Yes.
They're your best guess, yeah.
So, well, before everything, we do the JSON.stringify. And then, parentheses. And then another object in there. And then there we have our keys and values.
Okay. So we have things like message. We have things like, in here it'll be the this is the complement text is message. Oh, I see you saying like type in complement text here. Yep. And then we have help count. Hug, thank God, thank you. Hug count, brain. Hug count, how many hugs do we start out with when we make a new thing? 0. Is there anything else? Let's look at our database. Message, hug count, favorited. And we'll just say for right now, we didn't even touch favorites yet, but like just everything is not favorited when it gets created. Cool. Yes?
So I was going to ask you, do you have any validations for it?
No, not right now. Yep. Great question. Yeah, we can build them next week. You can, all the validation stuff you've learned totally works on APIs. Yep.
I just want to see if maybe you're going to get a rollback.
Oh yeah, nope. Good question. Cool. So we have that. So how do we get complement text in here? Go ahead.
We need to add a parameter to accept a complement text.
Cool. All right, this looks cool. Let's try it. I'm just going to use this method before I attach it anywhere, just like we did before. Cool. All right, so create complement card. That's not what we want. We want, what do we call this method? Create new complement. Create new complement. There it is. Right now, all we have to do is type in some text. And it should save to the database. What do we want our complement to be? Nobody.
Not the bees.
What?
Not the bees.
Not the bees. Cool. Did it work? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? Everyone else is like, what the flip is going on? I don't know, man. How do we check? That's right. Get us some truth. 201. Post to compliments. 201 created. That's a great thing. Let's see what we sent it. We sent not the bees and 0 hugs and favorited false. And preview. We have an ID. That's cool. Message is null, which is weird. So we'll have to figure that problem out. So we didn't get actually back the message. We sent a message, but we didn't get back a message. So we'll have to understand that in a second. But we'll go from there. But for now, if I go to my my list of all my compliments, let's go to the bottom. there it is, 65, favorited false. We just made this. We just don't have our message, so we have to find out what's going on there. This is a legitimate bug, and I don't know what's going on. This is not when I designed it, so let's find out what's going on. So, here, we sent message, hug count, and favorited. I'm going to show you how I will actually debug this. And I'm like, okay, message, favorited, hug count. So the keys look right. Since I have my server running on my computer, I can just go here and be like, did we get an error? Here we go. We got an error. Unpermitted parameters. So compliments controller create as JSON, message, not the bees, unpermitted parameters, message, and compliment. So let's see what that is. I think I know. Here. Controller, so if we look, it tells us it's the compliments controller create method. So if I go over here, controller, compliments controller, create method. So it's trying to take complement params. I think that's where it's breaking. Oops. I don't have message. Compliment. Cool. I think I need this one. But let's see if this works now, right? Strong params. You know this stuff. It's all coming together. Cool. Let's try it again. Console. Not the bees. Let's get that compliment. I don't think it's a compliment. Let's get the compliment in here. All right. Did it work? Network tab. We sent the same stuff. There we go. Not the bees. ID 66 now. Head count or hug count. Cannot say hug. Hug count 0 and favorited false. Awesome. So looks like it worked. Let's check our compliments API. This one's still in here, and 66 is in here. Great. So we've got a function that like we can just pass in a compliment, and it creates a new thing from our database. Awesome. So this is one way to do it, where we just pass in the only thing that we need, and we kind of like hard code the rest of this. This is totally fine. I love this. Another thing you can do is just pass in a whole complement object. And instead of making this object here, just pass in a complement object. And then when I use this, I just do that. You know, you just say like, hi. You pass it in like that. And that's how another way. You can just pass in like the full complement. You can make it somewhere else dynamically, just pass it in, and it'll just send it all along on its happy way. Cool. So since we did it the other way, I'll just go back to the first way, but either one works. And in fact, this is better if you're gonna update more than one thing, right? If you're gonna say, hey, maybe you can have a drop down that says like, oh, what's your initial hug count? And we say like 5, right? If there's more than one thing, you would want to probably pass in the full object and update it. But right now we don't care. Okay, so we've tested this. Let's see here when we refresh. Not the bees. That works. Awesome. And if I hug this, goes up. Look, it knows which one to do. Hug count went up by 1 because it's got the ID. 2, 3, 4. If I go back to my back end here, see it's 4. Everything's working. Awesome. So we did this in the browser. We called this in our console. Where do we put this so it like does it on its own in code? Where do I call this function? Go ahead. In the button? Show me, what do you mean? Which button? Where in here do I know that I'm making a new submit? Cool. What event listener do we have for submit? It is just submit. Awesome. So let's go, it's on the bottom. Right here, submit. So, create complement. So close to tying this all together. Just a little bit left. What do we do now? We've seen how we update. And we already know that we can't optimistically render this, right? We can't just hard code some ID. We need to wait to get a response back from the server to give us an ID, to know that it's created, so that everything works. How do we pessimistically render this? We have the complement text right here, we've got the server call, and we've got the DOM manipulation. They're just like right there, right next to each other. How do we tie it together? Go ahead.
Pass in the complement object and ask if it saves. If it saves, pull back, retroactively add the ID from there.
Cool. Pass in the complement object. Did this work? If so, do this thing right here, right? That's what you're saying. Cool. We have code that solves a similar problem in update. And that's right here. This says, update the complement hug count. This part right here. This is updating, talking to our server, making sure this works. When it works, then add it to the DOM. Update the DOM. That's what this is doing. This is what pessimistic rendering is doing. Do this first. When this is done, check, see if the complement came back. If it did, update the DOM. We're gonna do the same thing. So, right here, we need to modify this code. So if you remember, right now, all we're doing is sending this into the abyss of the server, and we're not getting any response back. So we need to get our response back to see what's going on. So we need to .then response. It's one argument, so I'm not going to put the parentheses to show you a different way to do it. Go ahead.
We never changed the parameter name back to complement text.
Oh, right here? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So then the response, we're going to return response.json. Right, so this is going to say if I .then again, I would get back our new complement from the server. Right? Because if you look, when we create something, let's just do it really quick. Refresh. Cool. Go to the network tab. This worked. Post. Sent all this information. You have kind eyes. This is our response. Our response is our newly created complement. This is what we get back from our server. This is the response. So we want to grab that response and use it. So here, step 1. Go to complements, post with the complement we want to make. Step 2, grab our response, take it from a string into JavaScript. Step 3, do something, right? Like with our complement, which is an object now. We got an object back. So, debugger, let's test it again. I'm just going to call it in the console. Pause the code, so it goes fetch, grab the response, turn it to JavaScript. Now we have our new complement. And if I press escape, new complement is our new complement object that we get back from the server. And it's got our ID, it's got our hug count, favorited, and our message. So now we have a way to say when this is created, now do something. So, final step for this is just like we returned fetch here, so that we can use this dot then on the outside of this function. I'm going to return. I'm going to remove this then. And I'm saying when that is done, so when you create a new complement, give it to the server, you get the response back, and you turn it into JavaScript object. When that whole thing is done, then take our new complement, and add it to our UL. Then do the DOM manipulation. That's what's happening. One other thing, what does this create new complement take as an argument? Go ahead. The object? Cool, let's look at it up here. Takes just the text of the message. That's the way we designed it. So we can either pass in the whole object or we can pass in the text. Which one do we want to do? There's not a right answer. Do we want to pass in just the complement text? Or do we want to pass in the whole object? Whole object? All right. Then we need to do it like this. There we go. So now we're passing in the whole object and stringifying it. Right, we're making this object. Right here in our form, we're saying get the info back from the form, whatever the text was. Make a new complement object. The message is whatever we put in that form. There's hard coding hug count to 0 and favorited false. And we're passing that whole object to be sent to the server. Okay? Save. Let's try it. Nice hair. Submit. Perfect gift for that. Awesome. So let's see. Network. 2.1 created. Looks awesome. Let's check here. Nice hair. Looks like it worked. If I refresh, should be in the bottom. Nice hair. Perfect. If I hug it, this looks like it's all working. Yep. Yep. Awesome. So now create is completely tied together. Any questions on that?
So I was gonna ask you, in the process of the fetch, I was like checking something before. I was not able to get the whole context of the promise. Let's say, for example, I just want to grab the values and get it into an array. Every time I was trying to do it, it was just always getting the promise. And when they pass, it said value, nothing, undefined.
Yeah, we can debug that like after, but I think that's where your paradigm in your head of synchronous and asynchronous needs to like keep thinking about how they're different. But we can walk through that specifically like after. Awesome. Yeah, like here, what we're doing, here's how we're using these promises to be really clear. We're saying, I'll just at a high level walk through this again. We're saying, cool, when that form submits, This is the event handling part. When the form submits, go into the form's target complement value, which is just that input box. Grab that input box's value, grab the text out of it. Then we're like, cool, make an object. Message, hug count, favorited. This is what we're going to prepare to send to the server. So we got to create a new complement. So event handling right here, grabbing something from the DOM, creating a new object that we're going to pass to our server. Then we say create that new complement. This is where we're using fetch. And why we need these promises is because this could be instant, it could be 5 seconds, it could be 1 second. We don't know when this is going to finish communicating with their server and saving it. Maybe the server's got 1 million requests and it's really slow. Maybe there's something that you can do in your network tab. It's kind of I use it all the time. You can say, I have slow 3G internet, right? And now I'm going to make a request. This is slow, right? And it's still pending. Now it happens. See how long that took? That was like 2 seconds or something like that. So it just depends. So what a promise does for us is it says, cool, wait till all this stuff finishes. When it's done and we get our response back, then add it to our DOM. Get our new complement object back from our server, update the DOM with it. Diving into this code right here, all this is doing is it's returning a promise. This is all one promise. And it's saying, go to compliments / with post, pass in our new complement that we're sending to the database. Whenever that's done, take it from JSON into JavaScript. And then when all that's done, then, and only then, do we update the DOM. And if we're like, what are we sending to the database? This is what we're sending. I'll show you right in the network tab. See, favorite it, false, hug count, 0, message, this is too slow. Or this is slow. So this is create. So now we've done create, we've done read, where we're getting everything from the database and putting it on the page, like all of these compliments. So read, create, read, and update. Before I go into delete, any questions on create, read, or update? Cool. I like, there's some awesome, like, I don't know, man. All right, let's do it. Delete. Delete a complement and have it saved to the database. This is what this looks like. Right now, it's like that face, yeah. So if I delete this, there's a lot of guns, sorry about that. If I delete everything, right? If I refresh, will they still be there? Yeah, everyone's getting the intuition of how this works now. Awesome. Oh, I have 3G internet on, that's why I was like, it's so slow. Let's turn my back to normal. Okay. So, when everything works, this works, this works. See, you can see all the server calls being made now with fetch. Beautiful. Just this part does not yet. Let's delete. So, restular. To delete something, what is the information that we need to know? Yeah, great, awesome. ID, that's it. We need to know, right here, it tells us just this HTTP delete, and the path is just compliments ID. We just need to know which one to destroy. That's it. This is actually going to be easier than some of the other ones. So here, let's do it. Sure. Okay. Cool. We got time. So, how do we want to do this? I think let's just do it the same way we've been going. Let's go here. What is the user input? Like, so again, we've got event handling, DOM manipulation, and fetch. When we're talking about like the interactions with the user, we're going to talk about events, like and some part of the DOM. They're doing something to the DOM, clicking it, scrolling it, swiping it, whatever. So what is the user interaction that we know tells us, hey, we should delete this? Go ahead.
When they click on the trash can.
Exactly. When they click on this trash can, it deletes it from the DOM, but we're not keeping it in sync with the database yet. So this is, again, we can tie the same interaction that we have and just add in fetch so it persists. So let's do it. So first, I'm going to show you how to delete stuff. I'm going to make one more. Right here, so we got create, got update, got our get all compliments. I did not put that in a function, just left it there for now. Let's make another helper method, const. Okay. Fetch. I'm just going to follow the restular thing, which is just this. Oh, I need backticks. And we need to know which one, which ID to delete. And since it's not get, we need a config object. And what's our method? Somebody just say it out loud. Yes, all right. Good. And we actually do not need headers because we're not sending anything, and we don't expect really to get anything back, just deleting it. And we don't need a body because we're just like, yo, you have all the information right in the ID. Easy peasy. So that's it. So let's just run this for now. Let's pass in ID so we can make this dynamic. And let's just delete something. So I'm going to delete, or it's undefined. Nope.
I think it was called null.
Smart. All right, I like it. Inspect. Here, here. ID 65. So I'm going to delete this one. I don't like this null. Console. Delete complement. Right? Takes an ID. I love how it tells you kind of like what to expect next. So it's like, cool, you need an ID. That's how we defined it. So it's ID 65, right? If we look here, compliments / ID 65, this is the null one. Just delete it. So it didn't delete from here, obviously, yet. We talked to our server. Yep, it's gone. Can't find it. If we go back, refresh, 65, it's just hug count and some timestamp. So there's not ID 65 anymore. Awesome. So it works. So if I refresh this and I null, it's not there anymore. So for delete, you can pessimistically or optimistically render it. It doesn't really matter. It depends on what you care about. If you're like, What I really care about is making sure my user doesn't see this anymore. When they delete it, it's gone, even if it didn't work on the database. Then maybe you want that functionality because you just want it to get out of their screen, right? This isn't a time where I think optimistically rendering is totally fine. You can also pessimistically render it and be like, I want you to 100% know you deleted this, and then I'll remove it from the DOM. There's just different options. So we've been doing this pessimistic rendering. I'm just going to do an optimistic render here so you can see. So, like everyone was saying, we want to, when we click on the trash can, right, all these clicks using event delegation, when we click on anything in the UL, if it's a button, then we update the complement because we know that's what it's doing. We're like increasing the hug count. And if it's the trash, we know we want to delete the complement, and we also want to remove it from the DOM. All right. So I'm going to put a debugger in here, and I'm going to just see what we have to work with. Save, refresh, trash can. So it's right here. So event.target. We got a trash can. Now, how do I get to the ID? There it is. And then it looks like it's right here. So I could do this. Query selector site dot ID. Oops. Dot dataset dot ID. There we go. So that's one way to get it. Cool, we're done. If we wanted to do it, like if I was like, I don't want to go do all this DOM manipulation stuff, I could mess with my template and be like, you know what? This also, we're gonna bind the ID to the trash can, so I don't have to go manipulate the DOM anywhere. I'm gonna say, like, go to the trash can, target.dataset.id, right there too. Cool. I'll just do it this way. Either way works. So now, press this, event.target, right here. Awesome. We have our ID. All we have to do now, so when we click the trash can, go grab the ID from the trash can and pass it into delete complement and remove it from the DOM. So this cool. And this whole technique here, this is optimistically rendering it. I'm not waiting until this is done. I'm not doing, then when this is done, like when this is done, then do this. I'm not doing that. I'm saying, I don't care. It can break, it's fine. I want my user to feel like they're deleting it. And I want it gone from them. Save, refresh, delete, network tab, delete, preview, delete doesn't return anything, so we don't care. Headers, don't send anything, but look, we deleted 71, and it said, good, it's deleted. Deleted 70, good, it's deleted. If I go in here, right, refresh, 70, not in there, 71, Just a timestamp, nothing. So I could delete very aggressively everything in our database now just by pressing this little thing. Like, blah, get out of here. All right, all these are actually deleting. You can hug. You can see all the fetch requests being made. This saves. We can refresh. Everything persists the same. See, we say like hug to 6, refresh. I think it's going to the top now. So hug to 6. So you're a great person to do a group project with. So 51. Refresh. Yep, 6. So everything's there. It's all working. Yeah. So this is full CRUD. So we just did an example of read. We did an example of create. By reading is like listing all these out when the page loads. Creating is adding a new LI, a new complement here. You can see it's created. We have an example of update. Right? This is updated now. And we have an example of delete. So this is everything that you've learned in Rails. Everything you've learned about like active record. Everything that you learned about like the CRUD parts. And now we're taking that, and this is how we communicate with servers and persist data. So that's it. You've seen everything that you need to see as far as like conceptually how all these things work. You've seen me build them. You're going to spend the next couple days practicing with projects and problems, and you're going to go from like telling some people like I moved to Germany when I was 19, and I didn't know any German when I moved there, and then I remember just like being like everything sounds like gibberish to me, I don't know. And then as I started to hear more German and be around it, I was like, I think I understand the words. Holy crap, this is crazy. I can understand German? Like, oh yeah, I can understand German. And then someone would talk to me and I'd understand and I'd want to like respond, and I'd like go to like speak German and I'd be like, oh, I don't know any words. I don't know how I don't know any words because I just understood what you told me, but I cannot speak it yet, right? And this is like where you're starting to get, right? You came in a couple of days ago and you're just like, what is all this crap? And then you get in a little bit more and you're like, okay, I think I understand what's going on. And then you go to type it and you're just like, oh no, I thought I knew this. And so that's like that's like passive language is like understanding it, and now the active language, like speaking it and writing it yourself, this is just takes time and practice. So this is where you're going to be at for a couple days at least, and you're just going to keep practicing it until you become more fluent in JavaScript and in these principles. Any questions?
And you get something to stay in the same spot on the page whenever you reload it.
Yeah, so that is actually, you can do that either on the front end or the back end. You mean because like it keeps switching different spots? Right now what's happening is in Rails, when we update something, it changes the timestamps for created at and updated at. So created at always stays the same. Every time we update something, it goes to updated at and switches it. And I think by default, Rails sorts by updated at. And but it sorts in a funky way where like it was happening where the most recent thing would go to the bottom, but now it's sorting in like a little bit of a weirder way. I'm not sure why. But we can either dictate in Rails and say, yo, sort by ID, sort by whatever, and it'll sort it. Or we can do it on the front end, and we can sort all the same iterators that you have in Ruby. Like you can do like sorts, and you can do like select as filter. You can do selects. You can do map. You can do like each. Any of those things that you can do in Ruby, same exact tools are available in JavaScript. So you can do it on the front end as well. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So I'm just gonna one gauge, and then I'll let you guys out of this early for a change. Thumbs up if you feel like you could help explain DOM manipulation, event handling, and fetch to someone else. Thumbs down if you feel like you're about to die and like some range in between, like wherever you feel, between like to like I feel like I could like explain this to someone like decently well. How does everyone feel? Let me see a thumb. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, great. I think you're right where you should be. Great. Thank you. That's it.